agency is guided by a disaster management cycle. And any action, any course of action that is taken from NEMA's standpoint would see us operating in 4 basic capacities. The first one is preparedness, and that is an ongoing effort. It doesn't stop. And then we are going to move to our ability to respond. And so response is very important, just as we are responding now to the impact of the COVID situation. And then there is the opportunity for recovery. And also from the disaster standpoint, where we can, we mitigate. And so you would hear in our conversations in disaster management that we would always speak about preparedness, response, recovery, and mitigation, because they mean something to us. As it relates to hurricane preparedness, it is an ongoing effort. And we do a lot of our preparation through training to support capacity building. You would find that we would train not only our staff, but our volunteers and other government and private sector entity representatives to be able to support us. And you would find training in so many areas, to include but not limited to shelter and shelter management. We also do a lot of training in initial damage assessment, or you would find us doing training in communication. And I kind of want to just go back to communication, because one of the things that we realize is that information is very powerful. And during a time when you are preparing to respond to a tropical cyclone, the one thing you want is for when persons are being communicated to, that the right temperament is presented in our messaging. You, for one, Mr. Williams, understand the dangers of presenting information in a way that it seems that you should be panicking, when rightfully you're just trying to educate and make aware and empower the citizens and residents. And so we have done a lot of work through our communications unit at NEMA. And I really want to commend Vesta Southwell, our public relations officer, and her team for the continuous efforts in emphasizing the importance of information and how you use that information in decision-making processes. Additionally, one of the critical training areas for us in disaster management is to ensure that our volunteer mechanism is up to date with basic training to include basic first aid and CPR. Because at the end of the day, they become first responders at the community level, and we've seen it at work. I know we would have shared some moments in 2017 with Irma and Maria, where we would have gone through a series of occurrences where our district volunteers were really put to the test, and because of the training that they would have been exposed to, that really helped with their level of preparation and ability to respond within a reasonable time. I know for a fact that we were faced with some challenges, and case in point was the fact that at the time when we were impacted in 2017 with Irma Maria, we were also dealing with red eye. I don't know if you remember that, Mr. Williams. And the shelter managers, who are volunteers, they were faced with the challenge of having to determine when persons come to the shelter who have red eye. And you know, when you have red eye, you can't be exposed to everybody. And so, that's right. Say that again? Conjunctivitis. And so that presented our volunteers with the excellent opportunity to be able to do what they would have been trained to do, and that is to tap into the resource of health, the health personnel, to be able to make determinations and, of course, distinguish and safeguard the persons, because even though you come to a shelter and you have red eye, that don't mean we should put you out in the cold. So their training would have taught them how to handle such a sensitive situation. So we believe that training is the way to go. You cannot go wrong with training. We are We are in ever training mode at the agency. We pride ourselves and we always encourage our stakeholders to be able to reach out to us, not necessarily for us to facilitate the training, but to give access to the resource that would allow for successful training to take place.